Hey, okay, so I'm talking today about something that I've been feeling really inspired by the last couple of weeks. It's something I've been doing in my business for a long time, but I've been remotivated by the whole thing recently. Because yesterday I planted a bunch of trees in honor in the name of the people who signed up for our monthly workshop. And this is something really fun. It's the first time I've ever done it in this way. So I was really psyched about the whole thing. And a few people asked me about it, why I do it, how I do it, how I structure it on the back end of my program, meaning giving back in some way with each one of my programs. And so I found myself talking a lot about the model that I use in my business, which is called the triple bottom line model. And I thought this is something that most people knew about, but it turns out it's totally not. And it's something that I've just been going on and on about and have never explained. So I'm excited to chat about it. So the reason that this kind of came about is when I was in university and, coming up as a young adult, or I don't know, like as a grown up, my like dream job was to work for the UN. I really felt like I was going to change the world. I had these giant, aspirations for what I was going to do. I studied environmental policy. I was very motivated to make change. I worked for a short period of time for the government of Canada at Environment Canada, and that's a story for another day. And I also, while I was in university, I joined one of my like favorite things that I did is I joined something called the Local Food Policy Charter. And within a couple months, actually, I somehow became the chair of this food policy. The chick went on maternity leave, and out of everyone who was there, somehow I became the chair. And anyway, while I was there, I would be like, leading and mediating conversations with our local members of parliament. I would be, with the mayor and like with all these people, and I would be having conversations that would lead to them writing checks for like six figures, multiple six figures, to our organization or to causes that we were like, you know, advocating for that would put in, agree to put in more grocery stores and eliminate food deserts and change bus routes and like all this crazy stuff. Anyway, I realized as I started my business, I started to look back and see like it's super strange that I could effortlessly and almost and confidently have these conversations that would lead to people literally handing over multi six figure checks. But when it comes to my own business and getting people to buy my products, I was getting squeamish or uncomfortable about asking for $1,000 or pitching at, $2,000. Or when I first started, I was pitching like, $500 and still being uncomfortable. And so I started, thinking about that and thinking about like, what's the difference here? Why could I be so confident in a room with like, high powered, well educated people, and then I'm alone behind my computer screen and I'm crapping my pants to pitch $500, right? And so I started looking at some of the things that felt really good, which were things like campaigning, and some of the things that felt really bad, which was like I'm upping the price of my offer just because I want to make a profit in my business. And not that that felt bad, but it didn't feel as empowering as something where I could easily ask for like, $500,000 or something like that, and not even bat an eye. So I started looking at different business models, and I knew that I didn't want to be an NGO or anything like that. I enjoy running a business. I wanted to do that. I didn't want to have a nonprofit. And so I stumbled upon the triple bottom line model. And what that means is basically most businesses focus on at the end of the year, they measure their success based on how much profit they made, how much revenue did we bring in. With the triple bottom line model, basically what you do is you say our success is actually measured not just by our profit, but also by two other metrics, which are people and the planet. And so I decided, okay, easy. This is amazing. I'm going to adopt this model. So now this is the way at the end of every year. This is how we measure our success. We don't just say how much did we make, how much did we spend. We also ask ourselves, we assess our effectiveness for people and for the planet. And so I wanted to give you a behind the scenes look at what that actually entails for me in my business, and maybe give you some inspiration on how you can implement that as well. So for people, we kind of go at this from two angles. Number one is we make sure that anyone who is like, I want to make sure that anyone who's working for me, number one, is being paid a livable wage, and number two, enjoys working here. You want it to be like an enjoyable environment, right? Like we've all had jobs where we hate our boss, and I definitely don't want that to be the case. And also, you know, I pay everyone on my team at least minimum wage, and usually more. I know when I first started my business, I read like 4-hour work week and stuff like that, where people recommend, you know, you can work with someone in Bangladesh or Vietnam or something and pay them like $4 an hour. That never sat right with me. So we keep most of our, you know, team members local, meaning in North America kind of thing usually. And we make sure that we're paying a livable wage. So that's number one. Then the second part of people is we invest in community. So in my case, one of the first big investments that we made here was with a company called Carranza. I highly recommend them. Check them out. They invest on the ground in education of women and girls. And so we're a give back partner. So we send a portion of our income every month to this company. And we also invest in sending a girl to school with programs like my Freedom Rebellion retreat and stuff like that. So we make that part of the sales model of that offer. So a portion of the sales goes to that. So that's people. Now with Planet, this is where at the end of last year, I kind of realized I was like dropping the ball here. There's things that I do in my personal life, but when it came to the company, we weren't really doing anything to make a difference here. So that's where the trees came into play. So now every single month we're going to be planting trees. This month we got to plant 29. I was like a little bit bummed that we didn't get to 30. You know, I could have used that round number. But this month we planted 29 trees, which is very exciting. And so we'll see how many we plant next month and the month after. And we know that we're, you know, investing in the planet there. And so that's very exciting and a new thing for me. And then, the other thing that we do is anytime that I travel for work, I do this for my personal life as well, but I purchase trees for, I purchase basically carbon offsets. So I offset my emissions of flying to and from that place by purchasing the amount of trees that it takes to offset that emission. That sounds confusing, but there's websites you can go to that do it for you. I'm not like calculating the lifetime, you know, carbon squandering or whatever the hell it's called for trees. You can purchase that online. So that's how we do people and planet. Of course, profit is like pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple. But what's very motivating about it is that the more money I make, the more money I can invest in these things. And so it almost becomes this really like motivating and driving factor, especially when a number or a goal, for example, you know, we have a goal to make $1 million, and every once in a while it's kind of like, why? You know, what's the purpose for that goal? Is it just because, you know, hitting that number is going to feel like success? Is it just because, you know, is it because I want a bigger house? Like, what are the things? And not that there's anything wrong with either of those things, but sometimes it can feel a little bit unmotivating. You're like, well, what's you know, the difference, right? So I find it really motivating to say, well, if we make $1 million, this is how much we can invest in the community, and this is how much we can invest in the planet, and this is how much I can invest in myself and the company and the people that work for us, and all of that, right? So yeah, that's how we do people, planet, profit. That's our triple bottom line model. Hopefully that was inspiring to those of you who are here, and it gives you some, you know, ideas of ways that you can implement that into your own business. If you're noticing yourself, similar to me, feeling a little bit like, how come sales feel less, you know, feel trickier when I used to be able to sell Girl Guide cookies like it was no problem, or something like that? You know, think about that. Think about what really fires you up. What gets you like, you know, you'll do anything. You'll stop people in the street to say like, hey, do you have a minute to listen about saving the whales or something like that? Then invest in that, because that's something that's going to really motivate you. And yeah, get you excited. Like I've noticed myself like, you know, every sale that we made for this workshop, I wasn't really thinking about, okay, yes, I can't wait. I'm so excited about that sale. I was thinking like, oh, one more treat, you know, it felt motivating. And so I highly recommend trying it if you're not already. And I'd love to know, you know, if you are using this model, what are some of the organizations and stuff like that that you partner with? I'd love to like creep and see what you guys are doing. Peace out.